Hey, everybody, and welcome to a special coverage of the Spring Fling match that Michael Arnold played between Patrick MC. So I'm here with Mike Arnold. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm glad to have you. So, kind of what happened. I guess we'll jump over to your deck and we can kind of transition to talking about what this was. So, we were in a group with Flint and Ryan Grodzinski, and I don't know how it came up. I think maybe Flint had proposed it, or because I know the tradition was that I had told Flint what deck to play in the Spring Fling or the Fall Brawl, and he was suggesting the same thing. And I don't know if someone said that they were all going to play the same deck, and I said, what if I name a card and you guys all have to play a deck around that card? Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, I believe I was the one who proposed that we all kind of do something together, and
Okay.
then you were the one that kind of said, "Okay, you'll pick the card, and then we'll just all build a deck around that." So
Yeah.
you already had a deck kind of picked out for Flint, and then you chose Smokestack as the main card to feature.
Yes, so Smokestack was like the challenge between Flint, Mike, and Ryan had to play decks with Smokestack involved, and so you ended up on Mud. Do you want to kind of? I mean, Mud is like an experienced or an established archetype in Premodern. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Mud deck, the differences, and kind of how you got to this list?
Absolutely. So I love ramp decks. They're kind of like my pride and joy right there. So I hadn't had a chance to be able to use my Metalworkers in Premodern. So when you mentioned Smokestack, I couldn't pass up the chance to do it. So versus it's pretty traditional mud list, except that I am running the four Smokestack instead of the three which you normally find in most lists. So I only have three Sphere of Resistance and three Winter Orbs to kind of make room for them. And then also, in order to really make use of Smokestack the best I could, I included a couple Temporal Apertures. So Temporal Aperture is a 2 mana artifact. You can pay 5, tap, shuffle your library, and reveal the top card. You can play that card until the end of turn, as long as it's on top of your library, without paying its mana cost. So Smokestack already rewards you for having lots of permanents, on the board, and then to like really fully break that synergy, the not the synergy, but yeah, you really just give you advantage over your opponent. Temporal Aperture helps me hit lots and lots of permanents because every single permanent or every single card in Mud is a permanent.
Okay. So I'll jump over to the deck that Patrick played. So was this in batch one or was this in batch two?
This is in batch one, so
Okay.
Patrick was my very first match.
Okay, so the deck lists were not public at this point, so it's not like you knew what he was playing, or at any point or knew his list. But so this is the list that Ed Patrick submitted for the Spring Fling, and it's actually pretty exciting. It's labeled it shredded wheat, but it has some pretty neat synergies. So I'll highlight like the Mother of Runes and the Shaman en-Kor have a neat interaction with Phyrexian Negator. So the Negator is obviously has the drawback of when it's dealt damage, you have to sack that permanence. But with Mother of Runes to the Shaman en-Kor, you can kind of circumvent that drawback. And then it rounds out with like I guess there's like a cleric theme, but I guess there's not really a cleric. Oh, I guess the payoff is Rotlung Reanimator is the cleric payoff here. But like a lot of these creatures are clerics, so
And,
go ahead.
and Rotlung is pretty good with Negator because it's basically giving you tier permanents, for each cleric that you have. So if you have to sack a lot, you'll get a token back, from the Rotlung.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a kind of like a dead guy ale-ish deck in some sense. It's like it's more white. I mean, it's like a white weenie mixed with dead guy ale, I guess. But then it has like it just looks to establish the power of Negator, and then I mean, it's not like Meddling Mage is like a bad card or whatnot. So yeah, it's splashing that, and like True Believer could cause headaches for certain types of decks, like if they're not prepared, and especially if you can protect it with like a Mother of Rooms or from a damage spell with like Shaman's en-Kor, it might cause problems for a lot of decks. So kind of an interesting build, not something that I've really seen before, and so I'm excited to see how it played in action against your deck.
Yeah, Patrick mentioned he wanted to build a deck that made Negator main deckable,
Okay.
and I think he did a great job of doing that.
Okay, so I'm gonna start our match. So right at the start, and so you are on the play. You kept your seven, and Patrick has mulligan to six. So we'll start things off. Right. I'll bring up my card fetcher so we can see which cards are being played because I know some of these are a little different than most. We are playing at like a 1.5 speed so we can get through the match a little bit quicker. Maybe that is better for the viewing viewers that we can move at a little quicker pace. But okay, so you just
So
led with the factory and he's kicking off with a duress.
mm, yeah, he takes the powder keg, makes a lot of sense, with him being a weenie strategy, and I'd let off with a Mishra's factory to kind of conceal when I'm playing lots of decks play factory.
Okay, so you just have the port, just slow him down a little bit. You're looking to get out the metalworker, I guess, the next turn.
Mm. Yeah, just develop my mana, at this point, and keep him down. I don't really know what he's doing. I see a Caves of Koilos and um, automatically think dead guy, but Soul Warden's kind of an unusual one to be seeing.
Yeah, I guess the deck that I associate Soul Warden with is like the clerics deck, but that's typically a mono white list. So
Mm. Yeah, so it's just mostly like a slow going at first. So uh, as you see, I'm just focusing on the mana denial at this point. He's not doing much or pressuring me at any point, so I feel like I've got plenty of time
yeah,
to be able to develop my board.
and I don't know if you what the other two cards in your hand, but if like you don't have like a payoff revealed right now, so there's no real rush to like get a metalworker to play if you just don't have anything to do with it right now. So I guess it's probably better just to disrupt his mana if you can.
Mhm. Yeah, Soul Warden, I mean, it's great for doing what it does, but it does not pressure the opponent very, very well.
Yeah, it's probably not that great against your deck. You're not like the type of deck to really worry about life total. So now I guess here maybe gives you like a little bit better idea what's going on because I'm sure yeah you're kind of I don't know at what point do you kind of understand like what his deck does or if maybe you finished the match and you still weren't exactly sure kind of what was going on. Maybe I don't know what pieces you had seen through the entire match, but like was there a point where you kind of realized what his game plan was?
So not fully until game two. At this point, I just kind of think that he's a black-white clerics deck, and that's deck which has kind of been talked about. It hasn't been really developed or fine-tuned. Certainly, there's no like high placings at this point, but black-white clerics, is a possible thing. We of course know Adam Rice's white mono-white clerics, and then Robin played his mono-black clerics in the second. Premodern Showdown series. So, and yeah, people have talked about doing it like a black-white clerics and having both, available options. Those kind of like white hate bearish clerics, but then also having black for Rotlung Reanimator. Right there, Rotlung is very, very powerful.
Yeah, so we see that you have resolved a smokestack, which obviously is the goal of what we try to do in the spring fling. But his deck, I guess, in general, I were a little bit worried about like playing against smokestack against like a Rotlung reanimator.
Yeah, I did not, fully understand what I was getting myself into when I first played this. We will see what happens when a Rotlung Reanimator is staring down a smokestack, and it's it's not the best situation to be in right here. But
Sure.
I wanted to do my best, given that this was the whole point, is to show the power of smokestack.
Yeah.
But I do feel like kind of as we see this line kind of play out with the smokestack that when your deck has a certain purpose, a very in this case mud is very just focused on locking the appointment out. You really just have to go along with your game plan, even when the opponent will throw kind of a wrench in your plan, and Rotling Reanimator is definitely going to do that, because I no longer have a leg up on permanents. If I only have 6 permanents in play right now, and he effectively, has up to 11
Yeah.
if you count the clerics twice. Well, 10. Okay, 10. There's already a zombie token out, so effectively 10.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a weird situation. So I guess here's the point where you decide to tick it up, and I mean that's always the tricky thing like, when you're dealing with smokestack is how do you decide when to accelerate and like all right we're gonna go pedal the metal and start stacking more permanents. Do you remember what your thought process was at this point?
Yeah, I was thinking of just trying to tick it up and everything, and I did have yeah quite a bit in hand that I could play out at this point. We're going to see that in just a minute. There's some cards which you can play. So I think this comes down the Tangle Wire right there. So Tangle Wire plus Smokestack. This is the exact spot that you want to be in. And then I've got a Winter Orb at this point. So my hope is that I can kind of tick up the Smokestack to be able to get them to sacrifice, some permanents. Both Tangle Wire and Winter Orb are things that I can later sacrifice. At that point, they'll lose their value over time, especially as we're sacking down lots of permanents. So I can always sacrifice those later on to be able to help mitigate the smokestack's damage to me.
Yeah, I guess given that the turn it was just a smokestack against his Rotlung Reanimator and Clerics, and now with the Tangle Wire and Winter Orb, it feels a lot better. I guess just also you having Karn in play probably disincentivizes him for attacking as well. So I guess we didn't really talk about just having Karn. I guess it whenever it blocks, it gets it. You guess you don't lose a guy; it would just soak up some damage. So I guess maybe it's not
Yeah.
that good.
Oh, I mean, it definitely will soak up some damage. And I do have the factory right there. I did have to tap out for all my artifacts that I played. But Factory will prevent his guys from attacking. But he's got that Soltari Priest right there, which that's going to cause some issues because that guy has Shadow.
Sure. Yeah, that one's a little difficult to interact with.
As far as I know, there's no artifacts with Shadow.
I don't know offhand. I wouldn't be surprised if they. I guess there's not that many artifacts in general in the Tempest block,
No.
but I mean, I could see them putting it like on a wall or something. But
Mhm.
okay, so that's probably your biggest worry is just like the clock from the Soltari Priest.
Yeah,
But
Soltari Priest we're going to see is definitely an issue right here. So I'm tapping down. I don't want to tap the. Or actually, yeah, I do end up tapping the Winter Orb because there are only two lands on his side.
sure, so yeah, it's like he gets on tap one anyway, so it's not that big of a deal if he gets on tap one extra. And I guess he chooses to sacrifice it to the Smokestack, which did go. It's up to three now, right? That's what it's at?
It was at no, it was at two, so I sacrificed
Oh, I'm looking at the
the
Tangle
Tangle
Wire.
Wire and
Okay,
the
yeah,
Smokestack. Yeah,
yeah. Okay,
so still got the that down. I just at that point I was like, okay, this is a losing proposition to keep going
sure.
with the smokestack. To play out the metalworker is definitely going to do some work here.
All right. Little robot's ready to serve.
Mm.
What is he doing in this picture? He's just like highlighting this guy. Like it's like a spotlight almost. Like he's like
Yeah,
working in theater, I guess.
it looks almost like a laser beam,
Yeah.
that he's got going.
Okay, so I missed an attack from the Soltari Priest. So you're at 11.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, at this point, I feel like you're losing. I mean, I don't know if you had the same kind of
Yeah, so
thought process.
before the next Tangle Wire came down, that was definitely the other point because he's amassing a good amount of clerics. I just had Karn and the Mishra's factory to be able to kind of stop that, but I was able to grab another Tangle Wire and play that. So that's gonna put him in his tracks.
All right, so
Put his
you
tracks
attacked
for
with
a little bit.
Karn and you had animated the Thran Dynamo. Is that correct? Or is the Thran Dynamo tap for mana?
So I might have, yeah, I probably did attack with Karn at that point. That's not really a great play, but he's going to have to tap down all next turn. So,
Oh, yeah, he did
just
take four from the
oh,
Thran
did he?
Dynamo.
Okay,
Yeah. I think it was just you guys were a little slow to update it. So
all right. Yeah, the Karn. I mean, the Karn just gets blocked
yeah, the Soul Warden, I think.
by the Soul Warden, but there's not really like an opportunity cost for it because he's just going to be tapped down next turn from the Tangle Wires. So I can always hope that he forgets about Karn being a
Sure.
pacifist.
Yeah.
And so now I've just got to tap down 4 permanents with the Tangle Wire right here. And this is, quite tough because I don't have like a ton on the board at this point. Certainly not as much as I would like. I definitely came out worse for wear due to the smokestack. So you see that I've got the smokestack revealed in my hand from the Metalworker. So I'm not really in a hurry to be able to play it out.
Yeah, I think maybe the benefit of it is just tapping that Tangle Wire at this point. I guess it
Mhm.
adds 2 mana when it's in your hand, so it's not the
Oh
worst
yeah.
card in the world. So okay, so here we see the Temporal Aperture. So I don't know if this is like because you can only do it at sorcerer speed, right? Like if you can't do it at your opponent's. I mean, if like you can't play things that you normally couldn't play at instant speed.
Correct. I did make a mistake in the deck building part, and we're not going to see like the exact point because I think it's on the next turn where I thought about activating it on my upkeep. You basically put like the tangle wires on the stack. If you're going to be tapped out anyways, right there you can do it during your upkeep and then activate the aperture. However, with the aperture, it has to still be on top of your deck to be able to do it. It's not Mind's Desire; it doesn't exile off the top for you to play later.
Uh,
So
okay,
if you end up drawing the card right there, you're not going to be able to then play it for free.
interesting. Yeah, I guess that's not an interaction that I would have realized, but yeah, I guess it makes
Yeah.
sense. It's kind of counterintuitive because it's like I guess it does say it as long as that card remains on top. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, this was obviously like the granddaddy before, Future Sight and then Mind's Desire, I think, for playing stuff off the top. So it's worded a little bit differently, but obviously, like, Mind's Desire is the much more famous one, so that's kind of like what we think of. And even like the modern, Urza, um, he works kind of like the similar way where you exile it off the top of your library and you can cast it later. So, but yeah, the original wording was a little bit different. So
Yeah.
I can't, do it in my upkeep and, put the tangle wires on the stack. At this point, I am just trying to go for a Masticore. You saw me flip over one of the Masticores accidentally there when I was running it, but I'm trying one. I know I've got a clock that Soltari Priest is doing his work right there. I'm down to 7 at this point, so I've only got 4 more turns just from the priest, and that's not counting if he's able to get any of these other clerics in.
We talked about Mother of Ruins in the pregame, but it's kind of a funny card because you have to choose a color, and that doesn't do very much against your deck. So, given that all your creatures are colorless, yeah. So the the board that he has is getting kind of scary, and with the tangle wires like kind of ticking down. Now he's at the point. So he's got a tap 2. Is that what he's thinking about right now?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
just got to tap 2. My saving grace this game was that he was, quite mana screwed for most of this, so he wasn't really able to develop his board. He had sacked, some lands before to the smokestack, and I believe a double wasteland this game already.
Well, right here,
So
the Karn I think is what saved you because like he's not crashing in because you'd be able to activate like the
mm,
Thran Dynamo and the Tangle Wire become a creature, and then you could just like eat his guys. So that also has saved you a lot of life through, just by
yeah,
preventing him from attacking with everything.
but yeah, those two things together, just is being tied on mana, and Karn is definitely you know earned his pay.
I guess Mishra's Factory
Brought
kind of does like a decent job of doing that by itself, but Karn is a little
the,
bit more mana efficient, and like the artifacts typically are a little bit bigger, but
mm, at this point, just spin the wheel, trying to get as many cards as I can, and just find one of the two Masticores in my deck.
yeah, because I guess if you got a Powder Keg quick enough, you could take out the Soltari Priest. But from this spot, it's like, because how else do you have any other way of like uh preventing that Soltari Priest from hitting you?
Not really. It's just Masticore or Powder Keg.
Yeah, like I mean, Smokestack in theory, but like I don't think you have enough life to leverage
Oh yeah.
that.
again, I mean, at this point, Smokestack would be a decent option because I do have lots of permanents on the board and I've got the aperture going, so I'm gonna get two permanents per turn, but it's just too slow.
Yeah. Agree.
He taps the Soul Warden for the Tangle Wire right here, and he was definitely taking a lot of time. He was thinking about this. It was a very difficult board state to be able to see.
Well, yeah, because
Um,
he's probably thinking about like, can I Alpha Strike? And because if he doesn't kill you and like, yeah, he taps all his guys, then you could probably just kill him on the next turn, like with all
yeah.
those Thran Dynamos and whatnot. I mean, you're attacking for 16, which is the Thran Dynamos and the Karn. So
Mhm. There's something to say because it took me a while to look at this board state and it's like, how am I going to block and line this all up? There's something to say about just turning them all sideways, and not letting your opponent think about how they're going to line up their blocks and just kind of forcing them to make the decisions
sure.
at that point. But I am not finding that Masticore thing at this point. I'm down to 3, so Powder Keg is not going to do me any good. Uh, it's really Masticore bust
How
at
many
this point.
Massacres are you playing? Are you playing 3 or 2?
2 in the main deck and 1 in the board.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was I believe that the previous turn where I hit the Mind Stone off of the Aperture and I just immediately sacked it. I'm just full on looking for Masticore.
Sure. Yeah, because at this point, I can't think of anything that would save you otherwise.
Mm. But I do have a good defense, lined up. I've got the 3 Dynamos, and I've got all the factories at this point, so I can definitely like hold down any of the other clerics right now, thanks to just spinning the aperture so many times. But
Mhm.
uh, that Soltari Priest,
Yeah, he's the real MVP for Patrick. Yeah, doing a lot of damage.
yeah, if you would have had a Soltari Monk as well, I might have been a dead guy. But
Yeah.
yeah, just a lot of thinking at this point. And Patrick was mentioning just how difficult like that the math was.
Hmm.
Um, Board at this point. This is where I think webcam games are the most difficult because you just can't evaluate the situation as well as you can like when you're actually sitting right across from your
Sure.
opponent.
You can kind of
So
line up blocks and like kind of figure things out. But I guess I'm like, if he's attacking with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 you can make you could make. If you tap a Thran Dynamo, you get 3 creatures. I mean, you could pretty much block everything. So you could block at least 6. Yeah, Karn, 3 Mishra's factories. Rishadan Port would make Tangle Wire, and then yeah, so you could block with you could at least block 6 creatures, and then the Soltari would get through. So I think alphaing here would not do any good for Patrick. It would just um, make him lose a bunch of creatures.
interesting thing about this, I wasn't considering for some reason tapping 2 of the Dynamos to activate everything. I was saying like I had to tap the Dynamo and my one untapped port
Hmm.
at that point. So I was confused by this. So like I kind of said before, with the if you would have just like gone for it and just like not thought and sent them all in, I might have actually made a mistake
Okay.
at that point. But the only way that I would have come out to that combat is tapping 2 of the Dynamos.
All right. Well, that reveal from Metalworker is pretty good.
Yep. So got Masticore off the top, and I immediately shoot the priest, which does create a token because I had the 2 floating mana, which at that point I was like, oh man, that's kind of a mistake, but that actually might end up being um, my saving grace right there, because if I shot down the Rotlung before, right there, he still gets the token
Mhm.
off the Rotlung, and then I would still have to shoot the priest later on. But he's got a lot of guys right there.
Yeah, but you do have a lot of mana, so I feel like pretty much I feel like would have to remove this, or you could pretty much mow down his entire team and
I am,
probably
however, at one. That
yes.
is that is a thing. So there's not any room for error at
Hmm.
this point.
Yeah, the ancient tomb is not going to do you much good right now.
Yeah, it's been a dead card for a while.
Yeah, so,
So he's got 8 guys coming in, which means I need to line up 8 blockers. So you've got, I mean, I literally have to get all the factories, all of the dynamos, Karn, and Masticore.
well,
Um,
if you have an active like Thran Dynamo, you could block with it and then like tap it for 3 mana and like shoot a one toughness guy and shoot that down. So like if you just needed to like live that turn, I think you might not need to block everything, but that just leaves him with some zombie tokens the next turn. But
and that's what we're about to see right here. Um, so he plays a Rotlung, and in response, I shoot the other Rotlung.
okay,
Because otherwise, if he's coming in, um, any of the clerics will suddenly make 2 zombie tokens, and that's not a good way for me to get ahead.
no. So yeah, even I guess like Masticore would I thought it would just be game over. It's like it's with the other Rotlung Reanimator does cause a little bit of trouble for you.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely have to take care of that. And so he just is like, okay, I'm gonna go in for it right here and
Yeah.
attack with 7 guys.
Okay, so you're
So
tapping 4 mana.
if I activate with that 4 mana, I activate the Dynamo
Hmm.
and the 3. So I'm representing 6 blockers, but again, he's got 7 coming in. So I, for a moment, think I am dead.
Okay.
And we're gonna see, this just for a minute. I'm like, I'm dead, and then wait, I'm not. You see, my life total goes 0, and I'm immediately like, Patrick. No, I see the line. So Patrick, being a true gentleman and a scholar, wants to no, I see the line right there because, yeah, maybe we'll block and then shoot down,
Sure.
some of the unblocked ones, uh, right there, to be able to get out of it.
Right, so I'm guessing the Masticore Thran Dynamo are blocking 2/2s. I guess yeah. I mean, pretty much you'd be able to block everything and then shoot down a one toughness creature, and
Yeah,
you don't
correct.
lose anything. And he ends up. I don't. Yeah, he obviously he shouldn't get any damage through. So
Yeah, so I'm
very
able to pump the factories. So the factories were pretty much all on the tokens
okay.
right there. Karn was on, I believe, Mom, and then he's going to lose the other 2. So we're just clarifying blocks right here. Again, this is a pretty big combat
Hmm.
at this point.
I guess Patrick's out is for you to forget to discard a card during your upkeep for the Masticore. I think.
Yeah, luckily I've got you. You'll see the die on top of my deck right
Okay.
there. I'm not going to forget that.
What's this to here? There's no smokestack in play, and then you draw a card, and then oh, that's that's the problem when you have multiple cards that require upkeep things. You might actually forget what your what your counter works. All right.
Board.
So after that combat
Right.
did
So
not go Patrick's way. It seems like he's packing it up.
yeah, he was just didn't have an out, for Masticore at that point. And with all the mana that I had, I would have been able to take care of his board pretty easily. So even if he draws like a Swords to Plowshares off the top, but again, I can just kill him on the crack back, um, pretty much between everything that I've got.
Okay, I got your deck list up. Uh, from what you had seen, do you remember how you sideboarded based on what you had seen in his deck? Again, like you're not exactly 100% sure what he's doing, but you saw some number of cards. What cards seem good against his deck?
Yeah, so I pretty much, just think that he's a low to the ground, weenie type deck right here. So I take out the 3 Black Vices and I take out a Smokestack. So yeah, Smokestack does not seem good against a Rotlung Reanimator deck, but also not like if it doesn't have Rotlung, it's or if I get it down fast enough, it's not too bad. But I bring in another Masticore and bring in another Karn and the Crumbling Sanctuaries
Okay.
as well. And Snaring Bridges, I thought about, but I didn't see really big creatures from him. So it didn't seem like Ensnaring Bridge would be very good. And since I am, going with a creature-based, kill by taking out the vices, I don't think I want to go the Ensnaring Bridge route.
All right. So you're just crossing your fingers that he doesn't have a null rod that he's bringing in. So I'm guessing Patrick's bringing in disenchants. He. I don't think I would bring in Armageddon against the mud deck. Seal of Cleansing seems really good. The problem with like worship is it kind of seems like a win more card. Like you don't really care about his life total until you have like control the board. And like if he has a Masticore, you basically can circumvent worship. So I don't. Maybe I mean like I guess the Mother of Runes is pretty bad. It's just like a 1/1. So
Yeah, Mother Runes really doesn't do anything in this matchup.
yeah, I guess he has some number of cards he can bring in. So maybe we'll see those. But all right, let's jump back over the match. So in the second game, Patrick again has mulligan to 6, and you keep your 7. So we've jumped to the point where he just put a card in the bottom, and he starts things off with a Soul Warden. Again, it's not a card that you're like particularly bothered by.
No, not at all. This game is not going to be, you know, lost by chipping in, a couple times for one point of damage.
Does True Believer interact with any of the cards in your deck?
Not that I can think of right
Okay.
there. I don't have anything that targets him.
Right.
I'm just developing my mana at this point. I don't remember too much about my hand, um, but it wasn't, one of those, really quick mud starts by any means. And we see the Rotlung.
Was there like a card you were prioritizing when you were going for game 2 or 3? Like, were you really looking for a powder keg, or were you just looking for lands and spells, or was there anything I guess you wanted to draw against him?
Yeah, I think with mud, you can't prioritize anything one too high because you don't like if you're gonna lose the card on a mulligan, you don't really have a way to get it back.
Sure.
Granted, I do have Temporal Aperture, but you most of the time you're just living off of the top of your deck. So you just want to see a good mana base. Um, Most of the cards that you're going to have are going to be very disruptive, to your opponent and slow them down. Some more than others against certain strategies, but um, really you just want to make sure that you've got the mana to be able to play your stuff. I think that could be said of just about any ramp deck right there. Um, is that you have to have that mix of your mana and your high end stuff. Uh, Big mana decks tend to suffer from either drawing all their mana and no action, or all their big payoffs and they don't have a way to actually be able to play the spells.
All right. So Patrick has summoned a pretty quick Phyrexian Negator.
Yep,
Uh,
and he's got a lot of permanents down, so that Tangle Wire is not doing very much.
yeah, I think he is okay with. Oh, I guess like if he just taps all his lands, maybe Mishra's Factory makes a little bit of a things a little bit weird for him. But ooh, oh, we got a Masticore
Mm,
and a Winter Orb, and
yep.
you got a lot of mana. So, uh, Masticore against Phyrexian Negator. That's a neat little interaction.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good right here. It's like, okay, we'll be able to tap down his, all his stuff. Masticore, I might have to take another hit from the Negator at this point, but I should be able to um, take work of him by just pinging the Negator a bunch of times. But he's got the Disenchant.
Okay. And yeah, that's so unfortunate for you that you only had one mana up and did not have regeneration mana.
Yeah, I mean, so hindsight being 2020, I shouldn't have played the Winter Orb. right there. But again, if he doesn't, have it, um, and I'm far and away gonna just win that game, I think. So my first real time playing Mud at this point. Um, so maybe with more experience, the deck I wouldn't have risked it by the Winter Orb, but at the time it did seem like it was the right play.
Okay. And yeah, now things look kind of tricky for you. I guess the saving grace, yeah. If he only gets to untap, I guess he only gets to tap 2 permanents, so he'll probably tap, yeah, a land and a Soul Warden. No, it looks like he's tapping the Rotlung Reanimator. I mean, it's still a little bit awkward. Like, I guess if you're attacking with a Negator and you block with a Mishra's Factory, you'd have to sack 3 permanents. I guess he'd sacrifice a Soul Warden, maybe 2 lands, or maybe like a Soul Warden and a True Believer in a land.
He could, because if he sacks, either the True Believer or the Warden, he just gets the tokens from the
Yeah,
Rotlung at that point, and then he can do a couple of lands. So yeah, I do block, with Factory and I pump.
so he's gonna trample over for 2. Then we'll see him sacrifice True Believer and Soul Warden. Oh, True Believer in 2 lands. Okay, and he has played
And
as
that makes sense
Soltari
because
Priest, so
yeah, I've got the Winter Orb out, so sacrificing the lands, it's not a big sacrifice.
mhm.
Um, because he's only going to be able to use one of them next turn anyway. And I'm already at 5.
I guess you don't have
I
like
cycle
a,
my Mind Stones and
yeah.
I just scoop it up.
Phyrexian Negator is kind of a tricky one for you to solve because not it's not easily answerable. I guess like a Masticore might be able to answer it if you have enough mana because you could just shoot it and he has to sacrifice a bunch of permanents. But looks like he's taking this one down.
Yeah, I was seeing the Negator was a big surprise right there and put me on a very fast clock. Like I said, I kind of put him on this just black-white clerics, which is just kind of grind out the game um, with the advantage of the true believers and um, you know uh, Soul Wardens and then the Rotlung Reanimators to get your creatures back. I didn't, foresee like a big, beater coming down to put me on, just a, you know, 3 to 4 turn clock.
Does that change anything? Like, does that make Ensnaring Bridge more appealing? Or
Um, I think I was on the plan enough, for just win with my creatures that Ensnaring Bridge wasn't a big deal at this point. I think that Crumbling Sanctuary would be well enough to deal with a Negator. I should be able to absorb enough hits, through the Sanctuary, just to buy me enough time to be able to answer the Negator.
okay, so we have game 3 ready. So both players have kept 7. So you're on the play for the final game, and we'll see how things go. So you start with an Ancient Tomb. Oh, nope, you're picking it up, but you're not tapping it. So
But that's what you want to be on Mud. You want to cheat with the amount of mana that you have. So just out the Metalworker
yep, that's
and like
definitely a
the
potential
Metalworkers
explosive.
before him, he is Swords
He's
to Plowshare.
he's dead.
Yeah, it is the fate of Metalworkers.
He tried, but I guess he's clearing the path for a Masticore potentially.
Yeah, so in the previous game, I was really more worried about Swords to Plowshares than I was, with the Disenchant. I wasn't really thinking about the Disenchant. That was a
Mhm.
um, not on my radar at the time. I thought that was a very unlikely play. So yeah, I just go for the Tangle Wire. I want to slow things down. I don't think that he'd be able to have much chance to be able to develop. We see quite a good hand right here because I got another Tangle Wire, a Smokestack, a Helix, and then a Temporal Aperture.
Okay, so what does he want to take here? Um,
What would you
I
do in this situation? This is a rough one.
well, so I mean, it's gonna depend a lot on what his hand is, but I think you might have to take the smokes or not the smokestack, the well maybe the smokestack, but I was gonna say the tangle wire, Mishra's Helix. I guess
So the
if that
Helix, do
resolves
you
like
think? Yeah.
I mean it would come down a few turns later, but like he's all main phase. Like I guess he has like a couple of disenchants, but like pretty much if you're locking out his lands, then he's just not gonna be casting anything. But
Yeah. I think at this point there was so many decisions like in game one. I think that Patrick was um, just a little bit mentally worn out,
yeah,
for all
fatigued.
those
Yeah,
right there. Because he was really deep thinking with those, and he was deep thinking in this game as well. And here we're like over the hour mark for the actual match. But yeah, I would have taken the aperture as well because it's only really the only card that I would have been able to play the next turn. I was still a few turns off from the Helix, so even though the Helix would have definitely locked him out of the game completely, once it came down, I'm still a ways away from that. So right now, I'm exactly where I want to be. I got a Tangle Wire down. I've got a Smokestack that I'm going to tick up, and I've got the Temporal Aperture to put me ahead on permanence. So then he does have a Rotlung, which is exactly the card that he wants. So um, I take up the Smokestack though. Now, like I said, I mean, Mud has just this one purpose of locking the opponent out, and sometimes just gotta work your way through it.
yeah. I guess I mean like Rotlung Reanimator. I think is the card that he wants to see against like a smokestack, but this other tangle wire is gonna cause issues for him. Yeah, if he's tapping down 5 permanents, yeah, it's this. Oh, and he has to sack because yeah, you get to choose the order. Okay, right. So and you get to sacrifice a tangle wire to a smokestack. This is just like everything's going your way right now.
Hmm. I'm really in control. I've got the active aperture at this point, and so I will start spinning it.
What card are you trying to hit right here
At this point, there's nothing like really
that you
that's
need? I guess
really over the top. Yeah, I just need more permanence because I need to come out ahead
right.
on the smokestack battle.
Land is probably like the most awkward there, but putting a Winter Orb in play is pretty cool.
So I've got the Tangle Wire Winter Orb at this point, so he's just going to be locked down and really hating life.
Yeah,
And we're just going to keep ticking up the smokestack and running the aperture.
yeah. Oh, are we still? Is he still thinking about his tapping? Okay. Yeah, he sacrificed first, and then he tapped. All right.
Mm.
Yeah, Winter Orb and Tangle Wire is kind of a nasty combination where you're gonna if you have any amount of permanents in play, you're probably not gonna have any lands untapped. So those permanents are gonna
It is really evil.
yeah, it's gonna buy you
You
some
know.
time. Though the one thing that is kind of awkward is you might end up having to tap your own Winter Orb to the Tangle Wire, and then that gives them the first opportunity to untap all their land.
Yeah, so I sack one of my lands to the smokestack. Again, they're not going to all be untapping because of the Winter Orb. So at this point, I'm just use my pain-free lands that I can. Um, so I got the Ancient Tomb in hand, which I knew about, and so the Dynamo now I have more artifact mana available to me to really start spinning that aperture. So I can activate that easily every turn now with between the Ancient Tomb and the Dynamo, and my life total is at a very healthy 15 right there. He's not doing much, tapping down with the Tangle Wire each time.
Yeah, but you I mean like you don't have like in I guess with the if you ever to tap the Ancient Tomb every time, like it's not like you have infinite amount of the aperture uses. I guess you'll probably find more land at that point, but Um, yeah, I guess it's pretty tricky for him to get out of this situation. Yeah, I guess the
Yeah, my
winner.
whole thinking at this point was just to like eliminate his board. I would probably be left with 4 to 5 permanents at that point, and he would have nothing.
All right, yeah, that seems real good. The sphere resistance.
But yeah,
I guess I was understating how good this position is for you even before the sphere resistance. Uh,
mm,
it's definitely very good, and I think that sphere resistance is might just be like the nail in the coffin.
I
Here,
agree. Because even if I sack it to Smokestack, like the next turn, it's still like kind of a time walk for me because he's not going to be able to play anything the
mhm.
next turn. I'm going to get to the point because yeah, we're at 2 on the Smokestack. Um,
Sacrifice
so
that Winter
I
Orb.
I can sacrifice the Winter Orb and get all my lands back at that point. I have a lot of stuff which is just, I don't need 2 Ancient Tombs. You probably don't want 2 Ancient Tombs. Um, do take a hit from Rotlung, but he's just got the 2 permanents out. So I'm gonna sack 2 for the to the Smokestack. Again, one of those are the extra Ancient Tomb, which I don't need.
All right, so we'll probably see another permanent from the Aperture. I guess it depends. Like maybe it just is better to like play something that you know you're gonna get a hit off your hand from your hand. Ooh, and the Smokestack gets the attack.
So at this point, I'm pretty good because he's gonna lose his entire board next turn. He's gonna just be left with 1 zombie token, um, and I've got Karn out.
So he's tapping his planes. Does that mean he has like Swords to Plowshares?
I'm not sure what he was, potentially representing.
Because if he swords the Smokestack there, I mean, then maybe he can. Okay, okay, he's exiling the Karn.
Either way, he's not like in a great position. Those two, but yeah, he sacrifices those. And again, I just think at this point, because of all the decision making in this, he was just kind of yeah, out of it at that point. He was just gonna scoop it up.
Yeah, I mean you were in a pretty good position there anyway. So all right, cool. Well, we got to see some Smokestack action. That was pretty exciting. So what are your takeaways from the Smokestack heavy mud deck? Is it a reasonable competitor, or do you think it's pretty significantly worse than like the standard version with a little bit less smokestacks?
It's pretty solid right there, and I was really happy with you know Smokestack and with whenever I had Smokestack and Temporal Aperture, going together, that was just obscene. So I ended up in the tournament 5-3, and so 2 of my losses were to the new Lance Oath deck, which Patrick Burt has developed. There was someone else with a very similar list to Patrick's. That is just a miserable matchup, for Mud, I think, because you're not casting spells really.
Okay.
You don't really care about. They always have permanents to stack, sacrifice to Smokestack. Their entire deck is permanents, just like you. And then they've also got like their wastelands and their ports. Your wastelands and ports don't do much against you because they have like over 30 lands. So I lost that one, or both of those matches, and then I lost to zombies. Ben Pelsager, who's a really big fan of that deck, and that's difficult for but as well. So he had an opening against me where he had double wasteland and into null rod on me, and that's really difficult, for it. So Mud I think is a very high variance deck, but certainly there's a lot of big payoffs that you can get. I was very happy but, with how it performed, with that interaction between Smokestack and Temporal Aperture. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I'll just bring up the deck list since we were talking about it. Um, yeah. So Yeah, I like mud. I definitely like the part that seems really interesting is you get in those situations where like the sequencing really matters, and it like that's where I think a lot of the play comes into play. And I guess with with having smokestack in your deck, it opens up a lot of branches of possibilities of how do I want to go if I'm taking this up to two, when am I doing it? And so definitely you can make some decisions. It's not just a very linear prison deck. There's a lot of things to do.
But yeah,
All right, cool. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and going over this match and recording it. And so I had a lot of fun. I was glad that all three of you participated in the Smokestack challenge for the Spring Fling. So I hope it was fun to have a little guided direction of what deck you were going to pick. But
it was good times. I couldn't bring myself to do like a super spicy brew this time around. Someone's got to spike the event, and this time it was me.
all right, is there anything else you want to add before we head on out?
No, I mean, thank you much for putting on the derbies. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, Premodern is just a great community. So for all of those who, just big thanks for everyone who participates in it, and for those who maybe checking out Premodern for the first time, grab a deck and come join the monthlies. It's a lot of fun. You'll meet a lot of great people.
Great. All right. So thanks again for joining us. And until next time, take care.